Hello, my name is Ed Barrett. I am the C Shop instructor at the Machinist Trade at Gary Job Corps Center. I wanted to put together this informational video for the outreach counselors to better understand what the machinist trade can offer young individuals. This picture right here is of our facility. It's a beautiful facility. Department of Labor has spent hundreds, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment investing here for our students. Our trade is a stair-step trade. When students enter this trade, they first go to Mr. Henry Singleton. He's a shop where they'll learn basic blueprint reading, how to read measuring tools, safety, and some basic shop math. Once they progress through that, then they will move on to B Shop, where Mr. Guy Benmosche will take them and he'll introduce them to the machines, and they will start building projects on those machines. The whole while they'll be learning all different techniques and how the machines work and how to utilize them. Once they complete that portion of the trade, then they move into the C Shop where they meet me. And here we'll do some more manual machining, some finer techniques, and I'll also introduce them to the computer controlled machines, which are CNC machines. So when a student finally does graduate our program here, they have a broad background, a lot of different equipment, not a lot of depth of knowledge, but they've got a lot of broad knowledge on the different pieces of equipment, which makes it easier for them to get a job. So I've got a PowerPoint, which I'm going to share with you, both this video and the PowerPoint. So if you want to make this presentation for students, you're certainly welcome to do that. A question students always ask, do I need to be smart? Because I hear there's math involved. Well, the math is not difficult, and it's basically all in a book. You'll have handy little books to refer to, so you don't have to memorize trigonometry or anything like that. So the answer is no, you don't have to be smart, but it will make you smart. Once you get through the trade, you'll be smart. Machinists, they make materials, parts out of metals, but not limited to metals, and they make them for most all industries. Probably most famous for aerospace and automotive industries. They use lots of machine metal parts. The machines they'll use are both manual and CNC. First off, they're going to learn the manual machines. On the bottom left, that's a lathe, a manual lathe. In the middle is a milling machine, and on the right is a surface grinder. Lathes are used for turning round parts, shafts, and things like that. Milling machines can machine any other shape. You can put channels, drill holes, all kinds of features into a part. And a grinder is for higher precision and finer finishes. Now on this screen right here, these actually are pieces of our equipment. These are actual photos of our equipment. Bottom left, that's a CNC lathe. It's like the manual lathe, but it's driven by computer. The students will learn how to write the program to drive the machine, and then they'll actually install that program and run parts. On the right is the CNC mill. Again, much like a manual mill, but it's controlled by computer, and again, it's program driven. Additional equipment that they'll learn to use are drill presses, horizontal and vertical saws, and lots of measuring instruments. At Gary Job Corps, they're going to learn the basic skills: measuring, blueprint reading, shop math, manual and CNC mill, and manual and CNC lathes, which again, it's a broad stroke of knowledge for this business. Where does a machinist work? Well, that's a good question. This is like most any trade. When you start out, there's different directions you can go once you get into the trade, and machinist is no different. There's a lot of different paths you can go and specialize in, and we're going to take a look at them right now. This is a page I'm going to stay on for a moment. At the very top is the graduate, basic skilled machinist. They're going to enter into an apprentice program probably, or they're going to go through a learning curve when they're hired. But they have choices. You can, if the student enjoys the CNC aspect of it, they can focus on that and that only. They can become CNC operators. CNC operators are entry level. Matter of fact, they're not even referred to as machinists at this point because a lot of businesses will hire people off the street and train them how to operate the machine. Because of their limited responsibility, it's easy to do. But for someone with a background in machining, it's easier for them to get the job because they have some knowledge already, so that the company doesn't have to spend that much time getting them up to speed. Once they're an operator for a while, if they progress, they can become a setup person, where that's the person that's responsible for changing over the machines to run different parts. So they have to load the program, load the tooling, run the program, make sure everything's okay. Once it's in spec and everything's running fine, they'll hand the machine back over to the operator who will make the production run. They get paid a bit more. They're on the screen, you'll see that there's data for annual salary, and CNC operator is $36,900 a year. CNC setup person is $44,000 a year. That's good money for somebody that potentially is 22, 23 years old. If they want to continue, if they like the programming part, not necessarily the machining part, if they just really like to figure out the programs and do CAD work and things like that, they can become programmers. Okay. And programmers typically have machinist background because they know the nuances of how to make the part, what tooling to use, how the tooling operates, how to get better finishes. So it helps with that background to become a good programmer. They make a little more money, $45,000 a year. Now these salaries I'm mentioning, these are all from the Bureau of Statistics, of Labor Statistics, and these are median salaries, meaning half the employees in that field make less, the other half make more. So it's not an average, it's a median. And those jobs are all over the place. CNC operators, you can find jobs in almost any city with CNC machines. There's some companies like product manufacturers. They're going to have lots of machines. They're making lots of parts for lots of people, and so they're going to have a lot of employees as operators and setup people and programmers. Auto parts manufacturing is another one. Again, a lot of CNC equipment. And aerospace industry, which there is quite a bit of in Texas. And job shops. Job shops are shops that are relatively small. They're in cities. They do small production runs, repair work, oddities, something that's when people are tooled up for high production, they can't afford to take a machine down and change it over all the time to make 1,000 parts. It's just not cost effective. So job shops, they'll do that. That's their specialty. There's small runs, specialty runs. Now, that's the CNC world. But if a machinist decides, you know what, I like CNC, but I like to do a little more. I like the manual. I like doing one-off parts. I like the complex, difficult jobs that I have to do. Then you can do a combination of CNC manual machine. In this case, there's a couple of different paths you can go with the manual. On the left, you're going to see a mold maker. Now, what is a mold maker? Well, a mold maker, they build the molds for plastic injection molding. Now, if you look on your desk right now, you're going to see at least 100 injected molded parts. You'll find them in your monitor, your printer, your computer, your telephone. If you just scan around on your desk, your keyboard, hundreds of plastic injection molded parts. All of those molds were built by a machinist, a mold maker. Okay. They're, again, injection molding companies. There's lots of them around. All they do is they've got these huge injection molding machines, and they make parts for other people. All of those injection mold machines require dies or molds, and and so these folks will build them. There's actually a shortage of mold makers, a critical shortage of mold makers in this country, because of our past tendency to offshore a lot of this stuff. The talent has been lost, not lost, but it's been minimized. So there's not a lot of mold makers out there. So these companies are hungry for these kind of folks. Mold making companies. There's companies that are starting up that do nothing but build molds for injection molding houses, and a product manufacturer. Somebody like Norelco or any of these types of companies, Black and Decker, they have in-house molding where they make their own parts. They hire mold makers to build their molds. Next to that, you'll find tool and die maker. That's what I've been. I've been in the business 40 years. I was a tool and die maker. Did work in research and development. Very exciting career. I did so many things. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Again, product manufacturers, the same company, Black and Decker, Norelco, Toyota, all of these companies, they hire tool and die makers to make specialty parts, low run parts, fixtures, stamping dies, things like this. And again, the salaries you can see in these areas are a bit higher. They're up in the 50s, 53,000 is a median. It's not actually uncommon to find a tool maker making over $100,000 a year. That does exist. Next to that is the job shop. That's where a machinist that just enjoys having a new rabbit to run every day instead of beating down the same old path, that's a job shop. You never know what's going to come in the door. It's a challenge. It's exciting, and it's work. It's hard work. Now, to work in a job shop, you have to have a very broad background and knowledge. So many different things, because you'll learn that as it comes along. Because of the diversity of the work that comes in, your skills are going to be tremendous in that position. R&D machinist, again, that's typically they're tool makers in there, but a lot of companies will set aside. They may have machinists. They might be part of a maintenance department, but they may have some specialty people called tool makers in that area that work on special projects, whether it's new product development, or whether it's modifying processes where they have to build new equipment to modify a process for higher output or better quality. That's where they would go. So there's a lot of different avenues, and again, it depends on what you like and what you're exposed to. So the opportunities are out there. They're all over the place, and it's a very, very well compensated skill. It truly is. So I'm hoping this helps, and just a little background for students. We'll show you some little quick pictures. These are CNC operators. They're operating, there's a lathe on one side and looks like a mill on the other. The setup person, again, those are the ones that actually set the machines up to get prepared for the next production run. And this is the programmer. You can see he's got multi-screens going. On the right, he's got a simulation of the part that he's going to make sure everything works good. Mold maker, this is a mold maker. On the right side top, you can see what looks like a mold that has a little chest piece, a little pawn. That's pretty crude, but it's basically what a mold is. On the bottom right is an example of some parts. Those are all molds that have to be built. And the bottom is in the middle is a mold itself. And on the left, there's a mold maker polishing a die, or a mold, so that the parts come out nice and smooth and shiny and to spec. Toolmaker, classically, they're into metal stamping. Metal stamping is where you take a die and you run sheet metal into it and it stamps progressively and makes a part. Example on the left, you'll see the pieces. They're very fine parts and pieces, and the precision of them can be in the tenths of thousandths of an inch. Example would be computer chips. If you've seen the computer chips with the legs that plug into socket, the little black chips, well, those legs, that's a whole body in there. That's all metal stamped, and their tolerances are in the tenths of thousandths. So very high precision. In the middle is a picture of a stamping die. On the right is a press, and on the bottom you've got some, looks like some proud tool makers standing around a die they built. And they also make fixtures. Fixtures are important. Sometimes even in the CNC world, you have to make fixtures to hold your part to be machined. Well, typically tool and die makers will make the fixture because they typically have to be of high precision to hold up for a long time and perform well. Job shop machinist. Here we go. This is again for those that like a new challenge every day and they like a surprise. Whatever comes in the door they've never seen before, they've never worked on before, but they're going to be working on it. So that presents itself with it's a unique set of challenges. And then again, R&D machinists, they work more in a lab environment, and you'll find them in research facilities like Southwest Research in San Antonio. You'll find them in universities, and you'll find them in large corporations. They've got like Boeing or Raytheon or any of these big companies, Exxon. They have R&D machinists to do particular tasks. Now, they have to be well-rounded and they have to be knowledgeable. Typically, you have to understand engineering and design. You have to know metallurgy to be able to be successful. So that kind of wraps it up. And so hope to see you all soon. I understand some of you counselors are going to be here in the facility this summer. If that's the case, if you do make it out here, be sure to stop by the machine shop. My name is Ed Barrick, and say hello to me. So I hope to see you then. And I hope this works for you. And if you have any questions or anything about the trade, or if you have a student that's interested and they have questions, by all means, give me a call. My number is in the directory. If you don't have it, it's 512-396-6782. And that will be my desk here at C Shop. Thank you all for your time and good luck.